Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's program, my Las Vegas Raiders draft plan. I am revealing it for the 2026 NFL Draft, and the reason why I am making this video is because I am a believer that the Silver and Black are going to have the number one overall pick, and if we don't have the number one overall pick, you're going to see me crash out on a show like you have never seen me crash out before. I've had a lot of fans. I've had a lot of people from Mount Raidermore, the Silver and Black Hills, a lot of the IG phone calls that I've been doing on Instagram at Mitchell Renz 365. They've been asking me, can we get more draft content? If you want more draft content, then hey, make sure you're subscribed because I'm going to be pumping out a lot more draft content. But here's what I want to know from you. I want you to be the GM, be John Spytek, be Tom Brady, be whoever the hell our next head coach is going to be. Let me know down in the comments section. If the Raiders have the number one overall pick, what should they do with it? Do you go quarterback? Do you trade back? Do you take best player available? I'm going to tell you what I would do coming up here on today's show because I got 5 plans. And the reason why I'm doing 5 plans today, and ultimately the biggest reason why I am doing this video, is because if you're the Raiders, you got to be able to show me, you got to be able to tell me, you got to be able to tell the front office, hey, this is going to be our plan moving forward. And I say that because the Raiders draft plan last season, it was bad. And we just got to be real. I'm not saying the Raiders players were bad. I think that that's still up for grabs. And I don't know if the players are bad or not because I think our coaching staff's so bad. But right now, the Raiders hold the number 2 overall pick. And if you lose to the Eagles, the Texans, the Giants, and the Chiefs, you will have the number 1 overall pick. But to me, I am somebody where I come up with a plan. I sit down, I write it out, and I try to execute that. That's how I would do it if I was in the Raiders war room, if I was in the Raiders draft room. And I'm also saying this to John Spytek, to Tom Brady, to Brian, to Brandon Hunt, to Stark, all these guys that make these decisions. The plan y'all came up with this past year was a shit plan. You can't tell me otherwise. You can't tell me that your main thing in free agency was to sign Alex Kappa, do nothing with our offensive line besides take JPJ away from center, and then draft Ashton Genty. If you would have told me that plan, I would have said it's a shit plan. That's why Raider Nation all offseason was saying it's a shit plan to draft a running back at number 6. Not saying Genty isn't talented. He's clearly talented. But you can't get the most out of your running back if you don't do the proper things before that. So what I'm going to tell y'all today is my plan for the Las Vegas Raiders in the NFL Draft, because I think right now if you have the number 1 pick, there's 5 things you should do. Now, these are not ranked. I want to be very clear. They are just 5 things that I would do. First thing that the Las Vegas Raiders could do with the number 1 overall pick, you could select Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza is my number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I think he brings a lot of the winning intangibles that you look for in a young man. He might not have all these glitz and glam, but you know what he does? He makes the other 21 guys around him better. He makes everybody else around him better because he believes in himself, and he makes players believe in themselves. He's got that, I'll say it like almost like Tom Brady-esque, where when he's looking in that huddle, the biggest moments, people don't want to go up against Fernando Mendoza. Like, you could say what you want about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. When the lights were at the brightest, those guys showed up. And because he led Indiana to a Big Ten championship, because he is going to win the Heisman, the Mendoza magic, I think, because the way Brady looks at quarterbacks and the way that he thinks, the way that Spytek looks at leaders, and if you had a top head coach candidate, and I will do a video around my top head coach candidates, I believe if you pair that with somebody that has the mentality of a Fernando Mendoza, and some people thought, oh, I can't draft him because of what he said in his press conference. Look at the fire in that kid's eyes. Fernando Mendoza believes in himself. He's going to rally his troops here. He's a leader of men, and I really, really, truly believe it. If you have the number 1 overall pick, I don't know how the hell you don't consider taking Fernando Mendoza. Now, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you tickle that notification bell. You just got to see that bell. You got to click on it. If you can't find the notification bell, I definitely know you can't find something else. So to make sure you're staying up to date on all things going on around the Raiders, and if you're looking for more draft content, make sure you're subscribed. Like I said, tickle the bell. Let's go to the other thing that you could do if you have the number 1 overall pick. You could go with Oregon quarterback Dante Moore. Moore is my second favorite quarterback, but some of the people that I've talked to have him at number 1. I think he's a great pure passer. I think he's a strong mental processor. And a lot of the things that I like in Mendoza, I also like in Moore. A lot of the things that I like in Moore, I see in Mendoza. Like, to me, you can't rattle Mendoza. To me, you can't rattle Moore. And I am a Penn State guy. I watched Dante Moore in a whiteout game. And if you've never seen a whiteout game, if you've never been in person in a whiteout game, the reason why I am a Raiders fan, I went out to Oakland in 2019. Monday Night Football was the FAB game. The closest game that I have ever been a part of, I'm literally getting chills talking about it right now, was I remember being in a whiteout game. It was Penn State up against Illinois. It was Rashard Mendenhall, Juice Williams up against 7th-ranked Penn State. Watching and being a part of that black hole and being a part of that experience, it was unbelievable. And the fact that I saw a guy like Dante Moore walk into a whiteout stadium, never give up, rally his team in a game that I'll say I can't believe that they won. To have that type of mental toughness, that's a guy that can handle Raiders fans. That's a guy that can handle Las Vegas. And that's why I like Moore. That's why I like Mendoza. And I also will say this. I think Moore's ceiling might not be as high as Mendoza's, but I also think Moore's floor is safe. Like, I don't see Dante Moore busting in the NFL. I don't know if he's ever going to be a top 10 quarterback. You got to be in the right situation. You got to have the right pieces around him. You could say that with any young rookie quarterback. But to me, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore are the only 2 quarterbacks in the 2026 NFL draft that I think that the Raiders should even consider drafting in the first round. Coming up next here on the show, I could argue my favorite draft plan is going to come up here next. And that might surprise some people because I am team draft a quarterback, because at this point you got to be able to find your franchise guy. You got to be able to build him with your new head coach. And I think if you want the top head coach candidate, you got to let him go get his guy. However, I really think where the current situation where the Raiders are, I could argue my next plan is the best plan for the Silver and Black. Also, though, we got a sponsor here, and I'm excited to be able to tell you about Bubs, because live better longer. And for a limited time, only our listeners are getting 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using code CHAT at checkout. Just head to BUBSNaturals.com, use code CHAT, and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that the Raiders Report sent you. So if you're like, Mitch, what's Bub Naturals? You can also talk about a bunch of different things of why collagen peptides help you turn the clock back. For me, I'm 32 years old. I know some of y'all have been asking me what's been going on with my own personal health, and I am trying to figure out ways to be the better, most healthy version of myself, which is why I'm really excited that Bub's Natural Collagen Peptides are here to help us out. And to me, it helps with your hair. It helps with your nails. My wife is telling me for a long, long time that I should take more collagen, and you just need 1 scoop a day. To me, consistency is key to my success. It's odorless, it's flavorless, it dissolves instantly, and you can avoid, I think just feeling like crap. I've started taking this now over just like the past, I'd say, week or so with my stomach problems, and I'm trying to, like I said, be the best, healthier version of me. It supports joint health. It supports mobility. You're going to promote healthy hair, skin, nails. My wife yells at my skin regime all the time because, I basically wet my face. I go to bed, and I've really noticed that my acne, I think a lot of people could say, my acne has drastically gone down. It helps with muscle recovery. It helps with getting stronger. I am somebody where, again, I want to be the best version of myself, and I believe that Bubs helps me do that. So that link is going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. And one of the other things that I love is Bub Naturals doesn't just make the cleanest and most effective collagen peptides in the world. They also sell electrolyte supplements. Also, Bubs donates 10% of all profits to charity in Glenn's honor, starring with the Glenn Daugherty Memorial Foundation. So live better longer. And for a limited time, our listeners are getting 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using code CHAT at checkout. Just head to BUBSNaturals.com, use code CHAT, and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support the Raiders Report, and please, please, please tell them that we sent you. Coming up next here on the show, maybe the best draft plan for the number 1 overall pick. Raise your hand if you think the Raiders have a lot of holes. If your hand's not up right now, it's probably because you don't have any arms. And I hate saying it, But, put your foot up. I don't know, put a toe up, put your nose up. Everybody here knows that we got a lot of freaking draft holes, no doubt about it. So here's the other plan that I think that you could do if you're the Raiders. If you have the number 1 pick, go back to pick number 2. And the reason why I say you trade back to number 2 is because then you could still draft Fernando Mendoza. You could still draft Dante Moore. Chuggs and I have said a lot on this channel, like we've kind of jokingly, like you look at the past history, the number 1 quarterback taken hasn't always been the best one, right? Like Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. I think most people here would take C.J. Stroud. Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. I know Jaden struggled this season, but I would have taken Drake May. That's a whole other conversation. But to me, you have so many holes on this team. If you trade back to number 2, because of what that team's going to give up to get to number 1, you're going to be able to get a shit ton more draft picks to be able to help you build this year, and you're going to be able to build in the future. And then if you're the Raiders and you're looking at Mendoza, you're looking at Moore. Again, I like Mendoza more. But I will also say here, like, if you like Mendoza, you should probably also like Dante Moore. And if you like Dante Moore, you should probably like Fernando Mendoza. I think they're very similar in terms of what they bring to the table as an NFL-style quarterback. So you trade back to number 2, whoever's available, you take the pressure off yourself, which is probably good for the Raiders, and then you just take that best guy available. But I do really believe that there is going to be one team. I don't know who it's going to be, but right now I've had a few sources tell me, and I don't even think it's that big of a secret. When you see what the New York Jets had to give up, or what they gave up for Quinnen Williams, or what they got is probably the way I should say, what they got for Quinnen Williams, what they got for Sauce Gardner, that's a team with 3 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks next season, a multitude of different second-rounders, and that's a team that's going to be looking for a brand-new quarterback because they're moving on from Justin Fields. I mean, if I told you that you could get an extra 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick just to move back one spot, even if, like, you did really, truly want a guy. Now, if the new Raiders coach that they hire is like, no, that's our guy, well, then you go get your guy. But if you're like I don't really know, I'll go either way, I think that this way, low-key, could be a great, great way for the Raiders to be able to build this team. So let's talk about quarterback, because we're talking a lot about quarterbacks, and I see a lot of hands up down there in the chat. Shout out to Javette, Victor Lobos, Danny2117. Shout out to y'all. What would you do drafting a quarterback-wise? Let's say you could pick any QB, because, again, to me, I'm only talking about Mendoza. I'm only talking about Moore because those are the only 2 quarterbacks that I would even consider drafting at number 1 overall. So would you go Mendoza? Give me an FM. If you would go Dante Moore, give me a DM. Or if you would pick somebody else, maybe a Ty Simpson, maybe a Cam Sellers, give me that person's name down below. I think you all know my answer. My answer is going to be Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a leader of men. I love what I've seen about him, and everybody's got their ups and downs. Every rookie quarterback's going to have their ups and downs. But I want a guy that plays his best football when the biggest moments are on him. And I want a guy that doesn't seem fazed by the situation that is around him. And I really need a tough mental quarterback, a high-level processor, because I think that guy would work great with Spytek. I think that person would work great with Tom Brady. And I think that person would work great with our brand-new, young, innovative head coach, whoever we decide to bring in. That is why I would go Fernando Mendoza, but I also wouldn't be mad if it was Dante Moore. This is where it's going to get a little bit crazy. Plan number 4 here that I'm going to talk about is go out and trade for Cam Ward. Y'all know how much I like Cam Ward. I said back in 2023 that back in 2024, that Cam Ward was going to be a potential Heisman finalist, that I loved what I saw from him from Washington State, was really excited to be able to see him play in Miami, and if you don't believe me, go back and watch March 2024 videos. I said Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Ward has not been good this season. I know that. You know that. But guess what? The only quarterback that's been sacked more than Geno Smith is Cam Ward. They have absolutely positively no talent around him at all. And I had a source tell me, who was with one of the Raiders owners, that the Titans would consider trading Cam Ward because they like Mendoza. I also want to be very clear. That conversation that happened with the Raiders owner happened before Sunday's game, before the Titans ended up winning that game. So that conversation was more predicated on Tennessee having the number 1 overall pick, and that Tennessee would take Mendoza, and that they would be willing to move on from Cam, because there's right now rumors and reports that Tennessee, not that they don't like Cam, but that they were forced to take Cam Ward. At least ownership made them do that. So if you're the Raiders, Think about this idea. You could trade a second-round pick. You give up, let's say, pick number 33 for Cam Ward. If you have the number 1 overall pick then, you already know that you're going to get your young quarterback. Then you could trade back and think about the amount of picks that you would be able to get for 2026, for 2027 to really retool this team. And because you do that, you can cover a lot more assets on offense, on defense, and you still get a quarterback that was drafted at number 1 overall. Like I said, I don't give a flying flip if people believe my sources or not. I will continue to say that I really, truly believe that this show, we've been able to prove that we do have good sources. And I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to trade away Cam Ward, but has anybody heard anything about Tennessee moving on from Cam? I really haven't heard anything out there. But I promise you this, there's going to be reports. There's going to be rumors, because I don't see why a Raiders owner would tell one of my buddies that type of information without it actually having some backing. NFL teams talk all the time. I am a big, big supporter of Cam. I would love the idea of us giving up a second-round pick for Cam Ward. But to me, people are going to ask, Mitch, would you rather draft Mendoza or Moore in the first round, or would you rather get Cam Ward for a second-round pick? My cop-out answer is going to be, what does our head coach want? Because I want to get the best head coach possible. And if our top head coach goes, I want Cam Ward, well, if that helps us get a better head coach, that's what I want. If our head coach goes, I don't want Cam Ward, I want Fernando Mendoza, I want Dante Moore, that helps us get a better head coach. That's what I want. You can't draft a quarterback like Ward. You can't draft a quarterback like Mendoza or Moore unless you support them and put the right pieces around them. So I do think an interesting way to rebuild this team, give up a second for Cam, trade back from round 1 or in the first pick, and then you just stock everywhere else. Because, again, I'm going into the draft spending a lot of my money on the offensive line. So I'm already going into the draft, in my personal opinion, with a great top 10 potential offensive line, whether it's Cam, whether it's Mendoza, whether it's Dante Moore. I'm putting us in a position to be able to succeed. Before we go into the final step here for this plan, I do want to give a shout out to the Noti gang. These were the first 5 people to comment on the video that I ended up dropping this morning, which, if you didn't see it, I said I was nervous. And I was nervous because I watched the Philadelphia Eagles play on Monday Night Football, and I am concerned that the Raiders could beat Philadelphia. But I want to give a shout-out to Muerte, Raider JC, Infidel, Raider Jaime, Ethan. Shout out to y'all. Greatly appreciate it. And you know what, y'all? They were able to find the notification bell. So you got some lucky ladies in the chat. Final step here. Final plan, if you will, for the Raiders if they have the number 1 overall pick. And this one comes with a little bit of a caveat to it. I'm going to trade for quarterback Jalen Milroe. And some of you are like, wait a minute, Mitch, hang on. So it's kind of similar to what I just talked about with Cam Ward. And to me, if you have the number 1 overall pick, okay, and I really think that the only way I'm going to do this plan is if you're able to get Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak's one of my top head coach candidates for the year of 2026 to take over for Pete Carroll, and he's already worked 1 season with Jalen Milroe. I will admit the Jalen Milroe offense is going to look a lot different than Sam Darnold, at least it better, because they are 2 totally different quarterbacks. But do we all agree that Seattle's probably pretty happy with Sam Darnold? I would agree so. So I believe if you're the Raiders, you could give up that 4th, 5th round pick for Jalen Milroe. And then you could get, again, extra picks from that number 1 overall pick, because you're able to get I think, again, if you trade out of that number 1, I do honestly think that you're going to be able to get, at minimum, 2 extra first-round picks. And I think you're going to be able to get a second-round pick because of how highly thought about Fernando Mendoza is. And once the media gets it going, once he wins the Heisman, it's just going to keep going up and up. I am hoping that he plays well in the college football playoffs. But to me, if you go out and you get a guy like Jalen Milroe, you better also have a offensive-minded coach, because I don't think it's smart then to go out and trade for Jalen Milroe if you have a defensive-minded coach. That, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. But if it costs a 4th or a 5th round pick, you get a young guy in Jalen Milroe, somebody who I do think can lead, very raw still as a prospect. And the reason why I would go this route, you could also just have Aiden O'Connell. I know you could have Aiden O'Connell who's on the final year of his deal. You could have that situation where, if need be, Aiden's just got to play 1 year. You let Jalen end up learning for just that 1 extra year. Maybe you kind of do a little bit of the Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart situation and give him an opportunity. But by drafting or trading for Jalen Milroe, you allow yourself to almost build a super team. And I've watched the Philadelphia Eagles go about this route. Jalen Hurts is not a good thrower of the football. He's got a good deep ball. I really think that's all he's got. and I do wonder if you could build a stacked roster with a bunch of players all around him. Could you get Jalen Milroe, play some FU football with Ashton Genty behind a great offensive line with Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers, and two good other young receivers, and Jack Best, Trey Tucker, JPJ? Like, I think we have a lot of pieces that could make sense playing an FU style of football with Jalen Milroe. So here are my Raiders' number one pick plans. And again, I'm going to throw different ideas out at you. That's what I like to do on this show. So I gave you 5 plans. Plan number 1, draft Mendoza. Plan number 2, Dante Moore. Plan number 3, go back to number 2. Plan number 4 is Cam Ward. Plan number 5, Jalen Milroe. Which plan is your favorite? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please, please, please let me know down in the comments.